a show of hands who are having a great time? Great. And how many of you have come here to see if you can stop finding relationships really confusing, by a show of hands? Yeah, well, my hope today is that I'm going to share some insights with you that I've gained along the way about relationships that will hopefully stop making them so confusing. And, well, as Des rightly said, about 4 months ago, I came back from Bali, and I'd been living there for 14 months because I had an insight, and the insight was that I need to get out of London to be able to actually breathe. 5 days into being there, I conceived my son Leo, and it was during that time that I actually had to take some time out because I realized how busy I had been and how stressed out I had been as well. And as I slowed down, I started to have a lot of insights. But a lot of insights about how the world works and how relationships work as well. With the effortless work that I do, there's a big part of that which is a focus on relationships. Because who would agree that, yes, you can have the lifestyle, but if the relationship side isn't working, then somehow there's a pillar missing there. So when I've started to work with clients and my journey, I realized that there's some really big misunderstandings of what creates our experience and what makes relationships work. And so I'm going to share some of those misunderstandings with you to clarify how they actually do work, in the hope that each and every one of you will know that you're okay no matter what. Does that sound like a good thing by a show of hands? Yeah. So the first big misunderstanding that I see is thinking that our feelings are coming from out here. Something has triggered that for you. So it could be the mouse, as Graham rightly pointed to earlier on. It could be a man or a woman, their behavior. It could be your circumstances. I hear a lot of women, specifically women, who talk about, gosh, if only I were in a relationship, then everything will be fine. But I also hear women and men talk about, well, if only I was in a relationship that was really connected and full of love, then I'd be happy. Or, if only I was in a relationship where he changed his behavior or she changed her behavior, then we would be happy. And I hear this a lot. Because what I'm hearing is I want to change my outside circumstances so that I feel differently. But the feelings don't come from something outside of you. The implications of this are massive. Why? Because when we can see that the feelings are just being generated by thought in the moment, we no longer become victims of our own circumstance. And by that I mean, we don't need to blame and shame the other person. Because what we're seeing is, oh my goodness, I'm creating this myself. We can then take the power back and realize that we'll be okay no matter what, because there are no monsters under the bed, because it's all thought generated anyway. Now, when I first heard this, I thought, yeah, that's great. That's for those people out there. That's not me. I get triggered, and it's the most normal thing in the world to think that, right? When suddenly somebody does something and you get really hurt or wound up, or somehow you're feeling lonely and you want to be in that relationship. It's the most normal thing in the world to think that our circumstances and the feelings are being generated by things out here. But I got really present to this one morning when I was riding on my little moped with the beautiful volcanoes on one side, beautiful palm trees on the other. For about 7 days, I had been feeling really blue. I'd been feeling really upset. See, my husband had gone away. I wasn't really connecting with anyone because I was spending a lot of my time in bed feeling quite ill because I was pregnant. And I thought, these feelings, they must be because my husband's away, or it must be because I'm pregnant, or it must be because of the hormones, or it must be because I'm feeling tired, or it must be because I had all of these becauses. I'm feeling this way because. And suddenly it hit me. As I rounded this corner, I heard something very different that quieted me down. And what I heard was, you're just disconnected to yourself. And in that moment, I realized how true that was. Because I finally connected with myself again and realized there was nothing outside of me that was making me feel that way. Because in that moment, even though everything had changed within me, my outside circumstances hadn't. My husband was still away. I was still in Bali, so that hadn't changed. The only thing that had changed was that I'd had an insight. And that insight brought me back to who I really was. Now, one of the events that I run called Your Pathway to Abundance, I get my attendees to do a little exercise, which I'm going to ask of you in the break. I call it the pizza walk. And so the exercise goes something like this. I want you to go out there to one of the shops where you know that they do not sell pizza and ask for a slice of pizza. How many of you are feeling a bit antsy right now, by a show of hands? Or is it just me? Well, in the group, I can definitely tell you that most people are sitting there going, she's a bit nuts. I'm not going to do that. A whole bunch of resistance shows up. What? You want me to go into a pizza store? You want me to go into a store and ask for pizza that they don't have? But the most amazing thing about this is this. They haven't left their chair. And they're suddenly consumed by all of these feelings. But nothing on the external has changed. And when I got to this, it really hit home for me that we are creating our experience from moment to moment through the nature of thought, through that formless energy that allows us to actually see life, and experience beautiful sunsets and people. Now, I know that some of you are wondering, but yeah, that's great, Marina, but it feels like sometimes people are on a completely different planet. Now, if you hear yourself saying, well, I wouldn't do it that way, I would do it this way, or I have no idea why that person did what they did. How could they? If you find yourself in judgment, that is just another way of seeing that you're in the misunderstanding of how life truly does work. It's the most normal thing in the world to judge other people. Or is it just me that does it? I'm a closet judger. And I came across this understanding to realize that each and every one of us live in separate realities. There is not one person in this room that experiences life in the same way as you do. I often joke with my partner, it's amazing we're still together. Because how the hell do we actually get on at all if that's the case, right? And I was recently in Spain, I just came back from Spain yesterday, and imagine this. Imagine me going to Spain and asking the Spanish to not go to bed, to go to bed early, like we do here in the UK. They probably think I'm just completely bonkers. Being brought up in two different cultures, I got to see that there's no right way or wrong way. There is just your way. And the challenge isn't that we see things differently. The challenge is that we expect the other person to see things in the way that we do. Or that person expects us to see things in the way that they do. What if we could just embrace diversity? The implication of this is huge if we know that this is how it works. Why? Because we can actually start to embrace this amazing diversity of people on this planet. This allows us to get curious and to actually ask questions. There's a great quote by Anais Nin where she says, "Assumptions are the termites of relationships." I know I get into a lot of trouble when I assume things with my husband. That usually doesn't go down so well. And I got really present to this understanding when I heard this great story. And it was about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, who decided to go camping. And Dr. Watson had decided to go to sleep. He was really excited. It was his first camping trip he'd been on. So there he was, falling asleep. And he suddenly was rudely awakened by Sherlock Holmes tapping him vigorously on the arm. Dr. Watson, what do you see? And Dr. Watson was like, wow, look at that. Shooting star. And another shooting star crossing over the sky. And if I look really closely, there's the Big Dipper. And if I look even more closely, I can see a universe between a universe between a universe. Wow! And the moon, how beautiful it is. And he turns to Sherlock Holmes and he goes, Sherlock Holmes, what do you see? Sherlock Holmes turns to him and says, well, elementary, my dear Watson, somebody's stolen our tent. And that story really clinched it for me, because here we are, seeing the world with universes and moons and stars, and somebody seeing the world through the eyes of somebody has stolen my tent. But when we get caught up in our thought storms, as I call them, they're innocent. They're absolutely innocent. How many of you have got really angry or upset or hurt and not known that you're caught up by a show of hands, that somehow you're in that space and it all seems really real? I don't know about you, but I've sent emails when I've been in that place, and it's not a good strategy. Doesn't get the response I'm literally looking for. And so I guarantee that when you're in that place and you're all caught up in your own thought storms, that you're not seeing life for how it truly is. The closest that we get to see reality as it is when we're at peace and when we're calm. How many of you have noticed that? When you're all caught up and you're really upset, you see life very, very differently to when, suddenly you're not so. There's more space for reflection. But this is innocent when we get caught up. And I really got to see this. You see, the implication of this is massive, because if we can see that this is how it works, it's purely innocent. There is room for forgiveness. There is room for compassion. There is room for just being a human being on this planet, making our way somehow through this thing we call life. And I really got to see this one night. I think it must have been when my little son was about 10 weeks old. And newborns, they have to be changed a lot, right? So I walked over to the changing mat and I undid his nappy and I cleaned it and put it in the bin, and I was really, really happy with my job at 4 a.m. in the morning, and things were going really well, and he wasn't crying and he was sort of, in a reverie, and I was like, yes, he's not going to wake up fully. And suddenly out of nowhere, he peed and pooed everywhere. And in the moment, I actually found that particularly amusing. Now, you would have thought that 4 a.m. in the morning, that's not a particularly amusing thing to have to deal with again. Cleaning him up, putting the nappy on, putting back into his little sleep suit, and then going back to bed. But something caught my attention, and what caught my attention was this. Oh my goodness, I'm actually not annoyed about this. I wonder why. And my head went to, well, he's innocent. He doesn't know what he's doing. Or does my husband when he's all caught up in his head? Do I when I'm all caught up in my head? Do I really know that I'm not seeing life straight when I'm in that place? And the answer was a definite, I think it looks really real to me, and I can't do anything else other than be in that moment. And I realised that when my husband and I poo and pee all over each other, figuratively speaking, by the way, that we're innocent. We'd much rather not be in that place. We'd much rather not be in this place of insecurity. We actually like being connected. But when it's innocent, it's just innocence. And I know a lot of people that have worked with prisoners in heavy duty prisons. Then they've done some heavy duty stuff. And each and every one of them will tell you the same thing. They thought that they had to do what they did because they believed what they were doing. They were listening to their thoughts up here, and they didn't feel that they had another choice. So in a way that they were innocent too. Now, I know this is maybe a difficult thing to understand, possibly. I certainly didn't really get this until I saw it for myself. So what I'd love you to do right now is I'd like to turn to the person next to you and just briefly share what you've heard over the last, I don't know, how many minutes has it been? 15 minutes? And what are you gaining from what I've been sharing with you? So just turn to the person next to you and just have a bit of a share. Go. Would anybody like to share what you've heard so far? Anything that's impacted you? It's not mandatory.
We were talking just now and saying that we were thinking how powerful thoughts are, and how the glass is half full and the glass is half empty. But why do those of us who think about the glass as half empty think that?
Yeah. And mine was just something about next door to me. I've got loads of building work going on at the moment, and there's loads of dust and there's loads of noise. And I'm saying to people on the phone sometimes, I'll be quick because it's very tricky what I'm saying, but I'm saying to people on the phone, I can't open the window to the evening and can't open, and it's noisy and it's dusty and stuff. But actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about my garden, which is like my precious little world, and although it's raggle-taggle, it's really precious. And what I should be saying as well, which I need to say, is, well, but actually the roses are lovely in the garden. And I'm just thinking about the thought storms that we have, which is a very significant description of, I think, what we all feel sometimes. But thank you very much. It made me think. Thank you.
You see, for me, the biggest realization was to realize that none of our feelings come from anything external of us. And not even the content of what we are thinking makes that feeling come. See, I don't know about you, but I often think that misunderstanding is an opportunity for deeper connection. When I get caught up, and my husband gets caught up in our little thought storms, what usually happens is this. Oops. The pen drops. I'm a great artist, and I've often been complimented with my artistic talent. A as if that would make much difference. So when we get caught up, these thunderstorms or these storms are actually communicating with one another. What happens? There's usually a lot of clanging, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder, right? So communication from this place is generally not a good idea. However, when we can communicate from this place, that's a sun, by the way, just for those of you that weren't clear on what that was. Then what happens is, instead of having all these sorts of things like anger, upset, what else might there be? Frustration, annoyance, blame, misunderstanding. Or just some, ... etc., etc., etc. Versus the sun's shining. Ha-ha! When we can connect from this place, what happens? Connection,
passion,
love, understanding,
compromise,
win-win, compromise,
clarity.
clarity.
Heart to heart.
Clarity. You see, I often hear people saying to me, but we argue about money, or we argue about when to have sex. Or is it just me? Now that we have a child, it's kind of difficult. Or we argue about, oh, God knows what else, whatever else we argue about. But what I usually see is it's not the content that creates the argument. It's the come from. It's where we're coming from. Because if we have a difficult discussion in this place, guaranteed that this is all that will happen. If we have a discussion from this place, resolution, love, understanding, an opportunity to see each other from soul to soul, not from ego to ego. An opportunity to listen. An opportunity for an unveiling to happen. For us to meet each other as who we really are. You see, I used to think to be who I really am, I needed to do a lot of stuff. I needed to go out there and be confident, or I needed to go out there and practice gratitude, or I needed to go out there and do lots of processes and things like this. But what I've realized is the only thing that ever gets in the way of us being who we truly are, in the manifestation of connection, love, understanding, abundance, clarity, is thought. That's it. No more, no less. You already are all of this stuff. So if we can have those conversations in a place where the ego takes a hike, then we can connect from soul to soul. Connection is already here 24 hours a day. I often hear people saying to me, but Marina, I don't know how to connect. I feel vulnerable when I connect. I don't know how to connect. I'm fearful of connecting. The only thing that ever gets in the way of us being able to truly connect is thought. Insecure thinking. That's it. My husband and I are able to have some really cool conversations when we're not caught up. We find resolution and we find amazing ways to keep moving on in order to find solutions that we need to. But if we have that same conversation in a place of anger and resentment, guaranteed that we cannot find a solution in that place. Does that make sense? You see, who we are is a manifestation of abundance, love, clarity. We're not our thoughts, and we're certainly not our behaviors. And I really got to see this. As you know, I've become a mum. I know it's kind of like big news. I tell everybody about this because it's a big life-changing experience. And while I was pregnant with Leo, I was walking down the road one day and I thought to myself, well, this is weird. I don't have to think about him growing. He just does that all on his own. Right now, there's an ear appearing. Or right now, there's a little hand being created. Or right now, his nose is being formed. Or right now, his little penis is appearing. Or right now, his little toe is being formed. I didn't have to think of any of that. I didn't have to go there, right, I want you to grow that nose. It just happened all on its own, right? Well, that's kind of weird. Where did that come from? Well, it's the same place that we've all come from. This formless energy that guides us from moment to moment to moment. I don't know about you, but I've really come to see that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And even though my husband tells me, oh, it's woo-woo, I'm like, I know you are woo-woo, whether you like it or not. Because we all come from that same place. Some people call it God. And I'm not talking about the guy that sits up on the cloud and with his staff or anything like that. I'm talking about the formless energy that governs life. That's where we all come from. And that's who we are. Wisdom, uncontaminated thought. But as Graham said, we have conditioning, we have programming, we have belief systems, we have all sorts of stuff going on. And it's not how we make those changes, it's the question I would invite you to ask yourself is what's creating that experience for you? 100% of the time, no more, no less, it's going to be thought. But thought is an amazing thing. Why? Because it allows us to experience life. Now, how many of you would love to spend more of that time in this place? Oh, there was another place that seems blank sheet. How many of you would love to spend more of your time living from here? By a show of hands. See, this is what effortlessness looks like. This is an opportunity for us to just be who we truly are. And this, for me, is the ultimate freedom that I've experienced and I see with my clients. That just being you is enough. And I got to see this one afternoon when I was sitting in a field in Wales, minding my own business. And I heard the voice, and the voice said, if being is enough, I must be enough. We're being, so we must be enough. Any other story you tell yourself is just thought in the moment. It's just this stuff. So I wanted to share that I'm running a 2-day event in London on the 5th and 6th of September, where I'm creating a sacred space for us to experience coming home to ourselves. And what that means is to experience yourself from a place of peace, abundance, love, connection, wisdom. An opportunity to connect to that place that's inside in each and every one of us. You see, we're all little kids, we're all babies. That's still inside of us, that's never gone anywhere. And what I've realized with this understanding is that it's enough. It's enough. The only thing that ever gets in the way of us connecting, of us creating those relationships that we want, of those feelings of loneliness, is thought. What if we could spend most of our time without that stuff going on in our heads? How freeing would that be, by a show of hands? Yeah, it would be so freeing. And this is why I'm so passionate about this, because I've seen the transformations in the people that I've worked with, but I've also seen it in myself. And the greatest thing is that I'm able to share this with my little son, Leo. So during that 2-day event, we're going to be spending time coming home to ourselves, to see ourselves for who we truly are. An opportunity to connect, an opportunity to say goodbye to that stress, those self-judgments that we may create for ourselves, and experience ourselves for the first time. So this is something you might be interested in knowing more about. There's more information at the back. But for the first 5 people that would like to come along, I'm reducing the price from the early bird, which is 147 to 97, for only for today. And I'm also going to be running an online masterclass for the first 5 people. So that basically means you get coached by me in a small group for anything that's going on for you that's creating you stress. And the great thing is about working in a small group is that you leverage the information that others is giving. And there's usually things that we need to hear anyway. So you also get a free book, and if you have any questions, then please, I'm going to be here all day. So please go to the table. But before I go, there's a beautiful quote by Rumi, the Sufist poet, and he says, "Beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there." And for me, that's who we are in that field. There is no right doing or wrong doing in that field. It's just us experiencing who we are and meeting each other from soul to soul. Because in that field, there is no insecurity. In that field, there is no hurt. In that field, there is only love, abundance, and connection. There is only now. There is no past. There is no future. There is only here, now, and insights into who we truly are in the moment. So I wanted to leave you with that. And I also wanted to say thank you so much for being here and for showing up. I know there's a lot of people that said that they were going to come today, and there's some empty seats in the room. It takes courage. It takes courage to be who you are. So, thank you.